Hello, friends. It is Saturday, the 22nd of May. I imagine there are lots of graduations and things like that going on this weekend. And we are going to another rung, the rung of truth. So let's see, what have we flipped through here? We have gone through faith, blessing, hope, community, action, and now truth. And I will spend a couple days on this run. We are looking at Ladder to the Light by Stephen Charleston, and he's an Episcopal priest and Choctaw elder. And so he started putting some words of wisdom on Facebook after his prayer time each morning, and has just drawn in thousands. And he has written some of those are included here, and then some commentary. This is one of his posts. Nothing is lost. In the days of conquest, when darkness covered the land, the hoop of many nations was broken, the story of many people lost, and lost forever. The number who perished will never be counted, but their graves are still here. Their testimony is written into the earth. The wisdom of the ancestors is a mist over the valley, a cloud passing before the moon. The teaching of the elders can be heard in the rain, the message of the poets seen in the first stars that put the sun to bed. Nothing is finally lost. The ancient visions are within us. The old dreams are part of us. The steady rhythm of hope was never silenced. It beats today for all who would hear it. It beats within me. It beats within you. Life is still growing beneath the concrete. The sound of the earth is breathing beneath the glass and steel. And his commentary. When my father was born, he was not an American citizen. He was a Native American, the descendant of a people who lived on this land for thousands of years. But until June 2nd, 1924, when the federal government bestowed citizenship on Native Americans, he was politically disenfranchised. He could not vote. He could not hold office. He could not help to determine his own future in his own homeland. Many people are surprised to learn how late it was in America's history when indigenous people were finally able to exercise any political rights. That sounds so un-American, but the truth of America's colonial past is that both Native Americans and enslaved Africans were denied access to political freedom. Their fates were determined by others behind closed political doors. Women were denied the right to vote until 1920. Enslaved men received the right to vote only after the Civil War, and even then, that right was harshly limited until after 1965. Native Americans had to wait until 1924, almost the first quarter of the 20th century, when it was assumed they would soon become extinct before they could go to the polls. This historical fact, as unjust and unsettling as it is, has been largely hidden from the political consciousness of most Americans. It is an embarrassing truth for the land of the free and the home of the brave, therefore it is left out of the national history, or the national story. Like many inconvenient truths, it is swept under the carpet of history. To see it clearly, it is necessary to climb up to the sixth rung on the ladder, to the light, the place where that light is bright enough to reveal the true relationship between political systems and the truths they seek to either embody or obscure. And this is one of his posts. Voting Day. Voting Day among my ancestors required a lot of cooking. Even before people began to arrive at the election grounds, the cooking fires would already be burning. Great pots of stew would be simmering while men tended the fire. Children shucked piles of sweet corn, and women made mounds of fresh bread. When the time came for speeches, all those who wanted to be leaders knew not to be long-winded. They knew the people would be getting hungry as they smelled the cooking from the outdoor kitchens. The vote would be taken, a show of hands by all present. Then winners and losers would sit down to share a meal, while all around them their children played together. Here's his commentary. Just as my ancestors used to dance as a communal principle to express religious identity, they used meals to express political identity. Government business was conducted in the midst of a feast. My ancestors understood that the relationship between politics and bread is universal and direct. The whole point is to provide for the people. Politics is not an end in itself, but a means to an end, a social tool people depend on to help them fulfill their hopes. Like religion, the purpose of governmental systems is to provide a better community. To do that, we rely on the women and men we elect to government offices to put the welfare of the people first and to do the right thing. When that fundamental expectation is disappointed, when the people we elect do not serve the community's best interest, we begin to lose confidence. We may even start to doubt the legitimacy of the system itself. This is a grave situation, and it is one many of us feel we are experiencing right now. A gridlocked legislative system, leaders who obey voices other than those of the people they are supposed to serve, endless maneuvering for the sake of power, not for the sake of the people. This breakdown in our confidence seems justified. It may also seem almost impossible to resolve. And here is another post from Facebook. When trust goes missing. Doubt is like water. It can creep into any opening, find any channel no matter how small, and slowly erode any foundation no matter how strong it may seem. Doubt whispers. It breathes its worry into the ears, playing fear like music as the sound of suspicion grows quietly in a nervous mind. While we can question anything and become stronger, we can doubt everything and grow as weak as a flower that cannot find the sun. What we have is only as strong as what we believe. If our faith abandons us, if our trust goes missing, once great hopes grew like then what remains is only a shell, an empty space where once great hopes grew like a forest and dreams bloomed like wildflowers along the road. And some commentary. The sixth rung on the ladder to the light is a breakthrough moment. It is the loss of illusion. It is when we begin to see clearly. The light at this level is too bright to hide the truth. Instead, it reveals it. Realizing, for example, that the United States withheld citizenship from its original inhabitants for so long in a conscious effort to despoil them by denying them the right to vote or hold office, is a painful awareness for those of us who believe in justice. But it is a necessary pain because it helps us confront the difference between history as truth and history as myth. Like religious systems, political systems arise from a historic narrative, a national story, and the memory of the people. This may be the memory of an exodus or the memory of crossing the Delaware River. Either way, the collective history of a community is both its archetype and its ideal. Political systems are who we think we want to be. They are wrapped up in our myths and our history. They are infused with our sense of identity. They are designed to turn what we hope for into reality. Political systems are fundamentally pragmatic. They have a job to do, translating dream to fact. We choose to put in charge of this machinery agents of the process we ask them to manage. They take on the mantle of the people, embodying our trust while they represent our needs. And this is a Facebook post. Sacred vision is our inheritance. Long ago, the maker of all things gave each tribe of creation a special gift. To the bears went strength, the eagles wisdom, to the deer grace and beauty. To the human beings, they had none of these gifts, for they were not as strong, wise, or beautiful as other animals. But they were given one thing that was special to them, vision, the ability to see both what is now and what is coming to be. Sacred vision is our only inheritance, not how strong we are, not how wise we are, not how beautiful we are, only what we can see through the eyes of the Spirit. For what we see is what we will become. and commentary. Native American leaders, therefore, were selected for their skills in dealing with the real problems of the people. These leaders were known to the people because they literally broke bread with them. They lived not in the context of power, but in community. They lived not in they were not set apart or pampered. They were specialists in certain areas, entrusted with coping with a particular problem as it was resolved. Then they returned to their lives within the community without fanfare or recompense. Native American leaders, in the traditional sense, were engineers. If they could convince people they had a bright idea for fixing a problem or dealing with a need, the people would entrust them to do that for as long as it took. But leaders knew their positions would be temporary. Once the job was done, they would return to the collective, the extended family of the nation. This time limit was critical for a spiritual reason. My ancestors understood that the only natural predator of truth in the jungle of politics is power. And a Facebook post. When power stands on its head, the president in overalls, the princess in work boots, senators in the machine shop, judges waiting tables. How different to see power standing on its head. Power plays dress up, wrapping itself in flags like dresses, posing before the mirror of its own reflection. Justice wears an apron, standing in the kitchen to do the work that must be done. What we do for the most must be what we do for the least. No labor above another, no one to rule, but many to reason, all working together, all working for one another. Can we even imagine it? Yes. When the promises pile up high enough, yes, we can begin to imagine it. Beautiful. I think of the committee structure we have in our own church and how things have to go through committee and discussion and all kinds of things. And sometimes it's frustrating to people because in a volunteer organization, you have to get buy-in and have people talk about it. That's what he's talking about here in terms of his own Native American tradition. Let's pray together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. I'm sure you probably know my definition of politics. When you get three people together, you have politics. How we deal with groups of people and what we need and want is under great debate these days in our country. So think about where you would like for power to lie, not only in your own life, but in the church, in our communities, and in the nation. Have a beautiful